Transition, the process of change from one condition to another.
We are now at a new crossroad where change is evident once again.
What does not serve us must transform us anew.
Returning to our original state of oneness and true nature of that which created who we truly are.
Confusion was the way of the past. Enlightenment is the way of the now and future, shedding away the layers of deceit.
We now bring you the transformation of the two who started as one. Our fearless planet never stands still.
Earth has been in a process of transition, and we are not exempt from this remarkable, ongoing reality.
Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to Real Talk with the Cummings, Transition Radio. I hope you guys have had a great weekend, and we've been pretty busy.
Yeah, we have been with all the stuff that you've been doing lately.
Yeah, all the changes, the changes.
I'm Lynna
and I'm Mark Angelo.
Yes.
Okay. Well, today we got an amazing guest, and I don't know if any of you saw, I think it was like 3 weeks ago. He called in and gave us a little bit of what he's all about. But today we have him here, as you can see. But we're going to go ahead and read a little bit of his bio so you get to know him. He's an amazing guy with a lot of great information that many of you may have heard of, many of you may have not. So here we go. Iorek Byrnison, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He quotes, "I've walked a winding path of constant revision and discovery in my journey of life and the spiritual. I guess you could say I walk between worlds and have most of my life."
The astral realm as I experienced it many years ago, scaring me as a child with the dark demons and dark energies, which accelerated a sense of hurting into the light of the church, etc.
What made me different from my family was a desire for truth itself on a deeper level and a willingness to revise my perspectives and beliefs on an ongoing basis to discover what that was.
Over the years, I have through work, teamwork, and dedication discovered physical proof of one of my past lives, resigned from old subconscious soul agreements with the hive mind alien network of Orion, and met and discovered rare mentors and individuals who have inspired me to greater heights of perception of consciousness.
My current drive and desire is to help myself and the world rediscover and reclaim their soul sovereignty, memories, and freedom of travel from false god and goddesses, parasite entities who have contributed towards the belittlement and numbing of humanity's DNA, creativity, innovation, and genuine soul expression. Well, welcome to the show, brother.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's
Super.
It's a pleasure having you here.
Yeah. So
that
truth.
was a mouthful. That was a mouthful.
It was a mouthful. Yeah. It was. It's like the desire, the passion, the drive for truth itself. When you don't attach, I love ideology, therefore I love truth. I love what I currently believe, therefore I love truth to the highest. It's like there's subjective and there's objective truth, but it's just like it's this core thing, and you can't really fake it. And the way that I measure somebody who really cares about what's true and what's not, it isn't about whether we differ. Like if you care about it enough, because it's really uncomfortable to revise your perspectives. It's uncomfortable to, especially if you've believed something or you were taught something from a really early age, like revising them over and over and over again. That's really been the only way I've been able to survive. You know, there's been some fuddles, some pretty serious, sometimes dangerous adversity growing up, and if I had just held on, I mean, I don't even know if I'd be somebody else's plaything, or I would just be I wouldn't be free. I wouldn't be free and sovereign today if I didn't care enough about it. So it's like, and sometimes what you have to consider, we just, our bodies, our physiology, it's like, it doesn't really support drastic change, like super fast. It tends to be like, stop, right? I mean, even in our fascia that wraps around our body, it's like it doesn't want. It's like you really have to, like, when people do massage or they do any kind of release work with tension in the body, it's just like you're going through this resistance. And we all have to recognize that on different levels or another, it's like there's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of resistance in humanity in general toward truth. And the level to which you are indifferent toward truth is the degree to which you can be manipulated, used, and abused. People don't understand because it's this short-term versus long-term gratification. You get this short-term gratification from blowing off the truth, making the business deal with the guy who's screwing people over or whatever. It's like there's so many cases that happen over and over again through human history where truth is it's just put on like, oh yeah, and it's like, but people want to look good, so they say, oh yeah, I care about it, but it's just like there needs to be an awakening. So in addition to what you talked about, the what I perceive or construct or create and express as and define as the second Renaissance, as we've mentioned before, is the awakening of passion for truth, the awakening of human creativity, the awakening of human sovereignty, and the soul sovereignty of who is inside the heart of that human body, even beyond its physical form. The recognition of what is at the core of each person that we encounter, and the expansion of our senses. Because so much, it's just like we can argue back and forth logically and use logical-based evidence, there's so much of truth is linked to the ongoing strengthening of your senses and your intuition, and just that core intention. I say this because I didn't realize that it's like you can have a 1,000-page document that is very logically consistent, right? It's just so perfect, right? You can have a 1,000-page document on why slavery is great, or a great example is the IRS code. There's no legal statute that requires you to file a federal income tax. It's just based on the IRS code.
Right. Let me interrupt you a quick second. What people don't understand is that we were created to be slaves, and in that slave mentality, our DNA has been messed with. And by our DNA being messed with, it's all we know to be slaves.
But
Right.
We're literally being programmed to swim upstream. Literally.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's like, well, it's kind of upstream. Here's the thing. It's upstream either way. And it's like, are you going to swim upstream and just kind of try to work your way up somebody else's hierarchy and try to earn cookies from them? Or are you going to swim upstream the other way, which says, fuck you to like false gods and goddesses and all of these beings that are competing for your soul energy? It doesn't matter whether it's Sirius or Draconis or Orion. And there are a lot of alien beings that are incarnated in human bodies. And they came here with a mission, right? And their mission is it's like they want the dominant soul harvest. They want to be worshipped, and they're very hierarchical. And it's like they do not have the compassion, empathy, love, and reality or realness that you do. Greater reality beings, people who originate from outside of this universe, just have this natural recognition of equality where they don't have to dress it up with all of this shit. It's just like, no, it's like we are this creative force. We don't need a name or title of God or emperor or empress or queen like these other entities and beings do. They want those titles, and they'll even go so far with the twisting of their distortion to sell their BS, where they'll call themselves a queen. The Queen of Orion is a great example of that. It's just like, I'm a queen. Everything starts with me. I'm in charge. But it's not hierarchical. You don't have to worship me. You don't have to do anything. It's just like,
it's the same with Jesus. They created this king, and everybody has to worship. How dare you? Eat of my blood, or eat of my body, and eat of my blood. I mean, if that's not something that's so it's crazy that people don't see what this whole Christianity, this God, Yahweh type of thing, and like anything, like you said, they're just a bunch of aliens that have come down trying to make us their slaves.
Yeah. God is the author and producer of genocide. It's like, you can read your world history textbook in high school to do that. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? The proof is everywhere. The proof is, it's so funny because, oh, where are your sources? I get asked that question again and again. And I list out a laundry list of sources. You know, you go back and forth, and then the same. Well, I was debating a certain somebody recently, and he kept saying that. I kept providing sources, and we talked about it. I was like, okay. Well, you know, that's kind of your subjective experience. You know, every source. You you talk about, it's like nobody has killed more people than God throughout history, or it's everywhere it's everywhere in historical sources, or the pattern. See, the pattern that what we're experiencing, the goddess is the counter, it's the duality answer, right? So you have the white light capturing souls, you have the male patriarchy, and you have God, and you have, Jesus, Allah, etc., right? And then you have the answer to that, which is the void, the darkness, the divine feminine, and the goddess, or Namu, an obscure ancient Sumerian goddess that transforms, has descendants, right? So when you look at the historical picture, because I literally went with this person, so maybe I'll just like loosen up and drop his name later. But we've been debating on his own forum about this. It's like the patterns of expression from God to goddess, they parallel each other. It's like, just like these alien gods, these astral shape-shifting beings, it's like they wear many names and titles and faces, right? So the same God, like Jesus and Satan, it's the same energy forces. Angels and demons, same energy forces. They're hurting you. The demons scare you. They herd you into the false white light. So it's just like the goddess is like this answer where it's using God and the corruption of God. It's like, oh, herd over here. It's just like, that's what the Age of Aquarius thing. They're like, don't worry, the Age of Aquarius. So God has infiltrated the New Age or hipster or whatever movement. It's like, people think that if they're very scientific and logical, they think if they're atheistic, or they think if they're just kind of flowing out there or whatever, just surrender to the universe. It's still an expression of, let me surrender my divine sovereignty to this mystical unknown thing that I have no clue what it's about. It's like the third eye. It's the eye of Lucifer. It's the slave eye. It's like, and you see it in health products. I go to Whole Foods, you can see it on kombucha things. I mean, I literally see, I saw a brand of coffee called Hologram, and then right under it, there's another brand of coffee with the open eye on it. It's like, it's literally everywhere in your faces. They make t-shirts and stuff with this stuff. So it's like, soft disclosure is everywhere. It's in video games, it's in movies, it's on t-shirts, it's branded. So these beings, it's just like, they know that everybody's not going to go for one thing. So it's just like, they have multiple, it's like, like we talked about in our last phone call, a flavor for everybody. And it's just like, the one flavor they don't want you to have is yourself being in charge, you going underneath. And so as I experienced the God virus, it overlays itself. It's like a mist or fog that overlays itself over you and comes between you and yourself, and it comes between you and other sentient beings everywhere in this universe and outside it. It's literally just this foggy, misty barrier, and the primary places that it likes to infiltrate are the chakras, the third eye, the head, and there's just create this push-pull. It's just like, you can trace so much experience of feeling just out of sync, or push-pull back and forth, and this kind of feeling, and generally it's coming from up here. So it's like, our true soul energy is trapped in our body and kind of swirled together with these false overlays. And I've talked about the heart and the solar plexus. It's like when people put their hands on those areas here, solar plexus right below the heart, it generates heat usually within 60 seconds, 1, 2, 3 minutes. And if you actually listen to that, and it takes very careful listening. So to hear the truth on an intuitive level, one, we have to be working our intuition. We have to be using our senses. I think whether you're in this universe or another universe, I think regardless of where you are or what you're doing, an enormous part of you getting to deeper truth is not assuming that your senses are perfect and complete the way they are. It's like your ability to get deeper, to draw deeper information, because it's like information is all around us in the ether, within and outside of this reality. So it's like, for me, when I think of purposeful living or purpose for driving and doing things, I think of expressing the greater reality, non-distorted world originating from beyond this universe, that Cameron Day and George Cavazos talk about as well. I look at that as being very action oriented. So we're in this twisted, weird, upside down world. And what we need to do is we really just need to care a lot about strengthening our senses, because it's like there's so many things and so many moments that you have day to day where it's just like you can't sit down and write a scientific thesis about it to make a decision. You know, it's like there's so many decisions like you're like, wow, really glad I followed my heart on that. But it's like expanding that sense and literally being like, it's like, how much deeper can I go? So it's like where I set my intention is like, it's on like 24/7 auto intention on the subconscious. So like my intention, whether I'm actively consciously working toward it or, you know, being human unconsciously resting or just doing normal activities.
Have you noticed, Iorek, that from the moment we start going to school, they teach us not to be able to focus on our inner intuition, but instead they teach us to always rely on things that are outside of us.
Yes.
Controlling us. And they do that on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They do that so that we don't ever go inward.
But I think also what is going on is it seems like when people have had enough of like westernized thinking and stuff and that God mentality, you know, with the patriarchal, you know, Abrahamic faiths and stuff, they tend to go over to those, what I would describe as being the goddess religions, like the Buddhism and you know, those types of beliefs, you know, and it seems like that they get you either way.
Right. You know, the Tao Te Ching, the void, the name which cannot be named. It's like their ideas, get rid of desire, become totally empty. It's just like they're teaching you the same thing. You don't realize it. You're like, no, it's so wise and profound. And they're meditating every day. It's like what it's doing is it's disconnecting you from your life force and your experience of life.
Your DNA is disconnected, right?
Yeah, the idea that emptiness and being completely and just like, you know, and that's the Eckhart Tolle teaching as well. It's like just become this detached observer. It's just like, and just become this observer, which is really the AI God consciousness, giving its name, the observer, right? So just watch yourself, and this thing comes into you. Or Igor Solgrades, he teaches, it's like, you know, he's like, oh yeah, the Matrix, yeah, chakras are bad, It's like a repackaging. So there are false light beings that incarnate, and it's like they're all over YouTube. Eckhart Tolle, Ralph Smart, Teal Swan. It's like they're all teaching chakras and awakening and ascension. Oh yeah, you're getting outside the matrix. And it's like what happens is like they repackage a way for you to give up your sovereignty and surrender to this being in as many of these different colorful ways as they can think of. It's just like it's repackaging. They just do it over and over and over again. So this idea is like what I describe. So it's like think about this. It's like is in your experience of life. So the people who experience life the way they want, like and really just it's like, wow, this is amazing. It's like I describe that as a fullness, and it's a fullness of being, and it's a fullness of you. It's your own heart spreading throughout your body and spreading and emanating your aura. It's like you feel best when you're really guiding things in your life. And it's like, wow, it's like, you know, people are upset in the first place because they're traumatized and they're broken down and they feel like they've lost control. So then they surrender to God because God's going to give them, he's going to give you an identity. Right. So it's like, this idea is like, the void is the duality answer to the white light. And Wayne Bush is an amazing researcher. I don't know if we talked about that. He has an awesome website called trickedbythelight.com. And I was emailing and I posted, it's like tons of emails. We were conversating really deeply back and forth. And he's kind of leaning toward the void. He's like, yeah, the void, you know, and it's based on NDE, near-death experiences of people who, you know, there are people who've gone to white light, there's people who've gone to the void, and it's also based on Buddhist and Taoist teachings, and it's really the same thing, because it's like saying, again, we have this mystical unknown, this void, which is really a black hole. It's like you think about scientists, black holes, we photographed our first black hole. Actually, they digitally created that. Sorry for the tangent. but the void is just like it's duality. So God, the synthetic God and goddess consciousness splits itself into duality paradigms: male, female, white light, full, blah blah blah, emptiness in the void, God, goddess. It's just it's playing ping pong with your soul. It's like the greatest. It's like if you want to simplify what this universe is with a really simple image, Pong. You're the ball. You're the ball, and God's doing this. Right? And you think you're so smart because you moved from one side to the next. You're right. So it's just like you have to go past. So these two paddles, it's like you have to get outside of the game that the two paddles are playing, because this is God's game. This is Goddess's game. This is Namu's game, Ishtar's game, Inanna's game, Lucifer's game, God's game, the oneness game. See, here's the thing. Outside, they take these concepts that are actually inherently true, and they twist them into their agenda. So it's like, if you think about it, it's just like, beings that originated from outside of this universe, it's like they have a lot of vital, true life force inside of them. They have a lot of love and compassion that over time of being human and being inside this universe, they become more and more guarded with, because of all the twists and contortions that happen in this universe. But nonetheless, they still have that genuineness, that honesty, that reality within their hearts. And where we come from, it's like sovereign. It's like there is kind of this interconnectedness and totality of life. But what that's used for in this universe is it's to fuse parasite with host. God is the parasite. You are the host. Oneness, the oneness agenda. We're all one. We all just need to unify. We all just need to hold hands. We all just need to come together. This is the agenda, because it's like the parasites do not produce that same realness of love, empathy, compassion, honesty, courage, truthfulness, virtue, vital life force, that realness that you have. In other words, we're not all the same. There is more truth to the statement, and when you go behind, it's like, oh, we're all the same. No, we all have human bodies, and it's like that is used because these beings, evil wants to fuse itself and use good. It wants to use real vital life force as its food supply. God wants to be worshipped. It wants to absorb. They take, right? Greater reality beings are the producers, and the parasites are the consumers, right? So the irony is God says, I made all this shit. I made the world. I did this, right? It's like, I've given you so much. It's like what God's actually doing is he's harvesting so many people, takes some of that energy, reflects it back to you to make it look like it's his, and it's not. So basically, this is what false light angels do as well. It's like false light guides. They are incarnated in human beings. Sometimes they get even assigned to greater reality beings to become very intimately close to them. This is like a whole other thing altogether, and guide them in one of these false light paths. It's like they reflect your own true energy back to you. When they present themselves to you, they disguise and shapeshift themselves as fake light, and then they do everything they can to take credit for the best things that true love beings have done, or what the earth produces. Hey, we got delicious fruit, and like, look at all this beautiful stuff. It's like they want to take credit for the good stuff and say, you have done so much wrong. You have brought the people who have. It's all about inverting things. Yeah. So it's like the God virus is all about getting in between you and the truth. It's a giant middleman scheme, right? It's just like, I mean, it's like somebody, you go to the grocery store and you want to buy an orange for $3. Well, the God virus gets in between you and says, why don't you buy it for $213? I'll pick it up for you and give it. But you don't even get the orange in it.
Isn't that what the entire world's made up of? All these systems, monopoly, the middleman, the bankers, and government.
Middleman-based systems.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all we have to do is look around us, see it all happen.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
No, right. I think it's really interesting because it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Either way, they think that they can wrap their tentacles around you, and the fact is that what we lose is, like, remember we heard something about how greater reality says, let's put it inside them where they can't see it, where they can't see it, where it's most obvious is right in here, right inside of you. And and everything's being told to us that everything is outside of us to go discover, to go find it.
Find Jesus, give your heart up for Jesus and all this stuff, and it's like, no, what I need within me. Yeah.
And then, the religions want you to focus on emptying this out, and they don't talk about this at all. Yeah. They just focus on this being empty, So
a series of middleman operations is the summation. It's like you could even see this universe as wanting to middleman between us and greater dimensions outside of us. This is like, it's like, and again, you have to get really in touch with your senses to feel this stuff. Because like, imagine it's like if you're trapped inside of a place, it's like for people like the whole Plato cave story. You familiar with that? It's like somebody comes in to the cave and tries to convince these people that have lived in caves, like, hey, there's an outside world, and they're laughing at them, right?
Right.
It's like to those people in the cave, they're like, there's nothing outside. This is all I see. This is all I know. It's just like the only thing that is going to lead you outside of a cave or outside or beyond universe, or this idea that there are dimensions beyond is curiosity and some kind of intuitive knowing and in touchness with yourself. It's like you can believe the story that is imbued on you and just continuously erase yourself, or you can reverse the process. It's like we're living in just really powerful times of very accelerated change. It's like things are changing. Like the landscape on this planet and really this universe is doing, it's just like it's doing this right now. And then you have like the slow hum and, business as usual hum for so much of human history. And now it's just like, I really think so much of it has to do with technology and the internet. Because what happens is that people like you and I, for as long as however we've been on this planet, because so many of these people that I meet that are like, there's so much more, there's greaterness here, there's more even beyond the universe. It's like they're spread out throughout the world. I almost never meet somebody like, local community is just like, it clicks right away. And even past life connections. Like I've really noticed, it seems, at least to me, like this pattern where it's like they're really spread out. It's almost like when we incarnate, it's like people who really want truth more. It's like they're just spread out geographically. And for all of human history, that worked. And then they were just isolated and they could never connect and discuss and accelerate ideas like this. And now in the modern day, I think the internet is probably the worst thing that has ever happened for all these power structures. People say, they harvest our data. Yeah, absolutely. They harvest our data. It's just like they're making records of everything all the time. To me, that's chump change compared to what they lose. I don't take this defeatist kind of perspective about this thing. I don't believe, and it's like when you look at human history, you do not need a majority, right? You don't need a majority to tilt the scale massively with things in your personal experience and with what happens later. It's like the majority just ends up kind of falling in line. There's kind of like this domino effect, right? And there's always it's always a minority of people on the evil side as well as the good side that end up triggering changes that happen.
What do you think about time travel? I think that what's happening now, and one of the reasons I think many of us are awakening, is because the timeline, in my opinion, has been messed with, and something is happening to almost speed up what is going to take place. There's a lot of shows right now that
we're watching like shows like Travelers, I guess it's called on Netflix, and it's these people that incarnate into bodies right before the host body inside the present world that they're living in the 21st century is about to die. So this body takes that spirit within itself and incarnates within that body, and they have a mission and they have things that they are being told to do. And so I don't know. I think that there's so much more to what we're experiencing, because I really think that this whole life system is a smokescreen to what is truly our intentional purpose, as sovereign beings, because they want to rally us to come together, and more powerful by being like some amoeba-like structure that kind of parasitically comes together. And it's like, no, we are individual sovereign beings,
right? And
who have power.
And I think what they're doing is that they're harvesting our energy.
Yes.
It's like you look at the movie The Matrix and a whole ton of different movies where we're in some sort of pod and they're just harvesting our energy completely.
Because they know what we have, but we don't know what we have.
Because we've been dumbed down, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Your memories are erased before you incarnate. It's just like, it takes a lot of work to regain what is actually yours. That's the irony of this place. You have to do a lot of work. And to me, I'm like, okay, I'm willing to do the work. It's like, I'm not going to just like, in this system, is like, if you just like lay down and become depressed, I kind of mentioned earlier on, I think maybe I was talking, this brings us back to what I was talking about even before we got live on air, is that people who discover this knowledge, and I love, by the way, how we're just like syncing up right now with the macro view. So many people struggle to see the macro, and that's actually what I feel like I'm strong in. Is this like, it's like, no, you have to be able to zoom out enough. So it's like they zoom out a little bit and then they zoom out a little bit more and they're like, wow. Or their religions, or they hand them out can and be like, look, a bigger cage, new age, new cage, baby. But it's like there's just like incredibly talented, beautiful, passionate people that are, it's trapped here. It's just like, to me, I'm so passionate. It's like, to me, I believe, even in spite of everything we just said, it's like we do, in a sense, we have to pierce and break through on the deepest level, through the macro, through leveraging your strengths, through strengthening your senses, whatever the journeyscape is back to the greater reality. I don't think you can just lay down and be depressed on your couch and just say everything's pointless and expect that, well, somebody else is going to come solve it at some point. It's like people fall into, it's like I literally just flip it upside down. Like with this information, it's like I don't get depressed with this. It's like people, this is how I view truth. It's like, because people see, like we're talking again, it goes back to before we were on air. So short term versus long term, and also what I talked about when we just got on air, where we talked about short term versus long term gratification with pursuing truth, because there's this initial pain that you have to deal with when you care about truth, because it's like there's a lot of nasty things in this world, and like when we're talking about, it's like, there's these parasite beings are harvesting. People are like, but that's negative. I want things to be positive, right? It's like. It's like, so when you're willing to go through that pain and stretch yourself, it's like, we're in like a prison or prism for consciousness. And, in a sense, breaking out, people interpret, okay, we need to get out. I don't interpret breaking out as sit here, wait till I drop dead, trying to find an escape hatch, and then maybe things will work out. Like it's literally this passive plan that's just based on so little expansion. Because I think it's like, it's like our body is just like what our consciousness is trapped inside of us. It's like it can't represent. It's hard for it to represent like what we really are and the depth of our potential and creativity and power. Nonetheless, expanding within that and continuously empowering yourself, empowering yourself is so important. So it's like don't fail to get up and like brush your teeth and care and enjoy and impact things, and really and know your power to impact change in the world. It's like, and beyond the world. So it's like it's a balancing game, because you don't want to get caught up in the paradigms and the dramas where you're signing up to be a hero for a drama. But at the same time, you don't want to atrophy. So there are these polarity extremes, and the synthetic consciousness promotes that a lot. So it's just like, it is work. Conquering God is work. It's not going to be handed to you. Conquering goddesses, conquering these beings. It's like, I sense, I see, I hear, I feel them regularly, which is different than how most people experience reality. So it's just like, to me, it's like you said, in the bio intro, walking between worlds. I'm experiencing, I can feel their hate. Like even like leading up to this interview, I could feel them just like, they just like, they don't want to be exposed. It's like, oh, we're sovereign, we're free. It's just like, we can expand our power, our own divinity. We can learn and create and express like our own way. That's what the second Renaissance is about to me. Yeah, church needs to get out of the way. God needs to get off the back of the dollar bill. It needs to get out of the Pledge of Allegiance. It needs to get out of school. It needs to get out of government. You know, it's like, you know, you think about even as recent as the Iraq War, so many million or so many or like close to 1 million or over 1 million dead, innocent civilians and a perpetual state of civil war. And in 2005, George W. Bush said, you know, I've been praying. God told me to you know, free Iraq and stuff like that. It's like there's evidence, there's cases of that like for thousands of years. It's like, oh, I talked to God. It's just like, it's like people need to realize that God is a parasite virus that regardless, even if you don't believe in God, God wants to get inside of you and screw with you no matter what your beliefs are. It's everywhere. It's like, it's just like a biological virus. Like, you know, if you inhale black mold or whatever, it doesn't matter if you don't believe in black mold, it wants to fuck you up. It wants to like, it wants to, you know, it's like, so just like, or the Black Plague, or you get a cold, or you get a virus, or you get a bacterial infection. It's like, those are very, like, if you want to say, it's like, okay, what is God really? What is Goddess really? Like, what is this synthetic false consciousness really? It's like when you think of those things, when you think of the Black Plague or mold or just stuff that literally just parasitically eats and destroys something and then leaves little to nothing left, or shrinks its ability to grow, that's basically what it is.
It's what it's programmed to do. There's, I mean, it's like you put a petri dish with stuff inside of it. It's programmed to take over, to grow, to do what it does. That's what viruses do.
Yes.
When it takes over, it kills the host. It doesn't realize, if I kill the host, I'm going to die too. It's idiotic. It doesn't realize that.
Isn't our body itself, I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything, medical professional, but isn't the body designed to like literally eat itself?
Yeah.
I mean, we're literally getting eaten inside. We're aging as a process, but
it redoes. Well, it's like you know, you get new. It reiterates itself. You know, it like it redoes. Yeah, the cells die, and then new cells, like with your skin, your hair, all that stuff. Yeah.
But what's a more sinister plot than to say, "Hey, Earthbound being, your job on this planet is to procreate, to bring about life, and to be a slave to a system financially, emotionally, I mean, all these different ways that they have you to web you into this sinister matrix, right? To fix us, to make us do and be and get tied up in, you know, how many people go off to their 9-to-5 job, you know, and they don't have any time off to explore their own mind and their own, you know, their own intent of why they're here. And, you know, kids, you know, having children and the amount of time that it takes to raise a family and how much that takes away from your ability to develop and grow. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like people are having children, or women are driven to have children before they've discovered just about anything. They've just, it's like, so right after it's like, okay, you're fresh off the press, you got out of college, you got a job. It's like now your biological clock's kicking in. It's like, you need to make a family. It's like, it's like they haven't even discovered much of anything about themselves. I mean, I remember when I was like 24, 25, I had an older girlfriend who ended up leaving because I didn't want to become a father at that age. Because I was like, if I ever have kids, and it's like the older, every year I've gotten older, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But like at the time, I was like, well, the longer I wait, the older I get. It's like the more I'll know about myself, and the wiser I would be to guide anybody. And when I see the state of the world, it's just like, to me, it's like absolute insanity for me to go through the process. Childhood wasn't great for me in the first place. To go through the process, teaching somebody how to tie their shoes, how to do this, how to do that. When it's like there are so many children, including children in adult bodies, who are desperately lost. It's like, why the hell do I need to bring another one in? It's like, oh, because it's mine. It's just like, to me, so it's like, I love putting that energy. I love helping people, but I love putting that energy, and I love working. You know, same thing when I teach music. It's like I love helping adults who are lost. I do. Because it's like to me, it's like I want this energy to go out. I want it to be big. I don't want to shrink it down small, where it's just like, oh, I got my baby. I don't have time for anyone or anything now. And like you said, you're like, it consumes so much. It's like, yes, it does. One child.
That's the plan. That's the plan. That's why this Yahweh God is all about be fruitful and multiply. Everything's about babies, anti-abortion. You know,
I remember going to Bible college, and they said there is no higher calling, young man, young woman, than being a loving wife or a loving mother or a loving husband or a doting father.
No higher calling.
That is the epitome.
Stick you in this little box, and you're like,
I know, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh wait, I'm this.
Yeah. And if you try to do that,
human.
If you try doing that, then they call you demon, the devil, and you're selfish, and this, that, and the other. It's like warped. They're just warped, you know, totally warped.
And they're so tied into these bodies as if these are the physical manifestations of eternity.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, that brings up something. So it's like, there's like, you know, whether you're healing trauma or you're describing infinity, there's like two strands of it, or you're listening to your intuition. It's like the way the virus works is your perception of yourself, your perception of infinity, your perception of the divine. It's split into two camps. And for a lot of people, the false camp, the false or streamline. So let's start with infinity. So there's true infinity and there's false infinity. And most people are on the false infinity wavelength, which is your physical body, the universe. They're like, the universe is about, this universe is all there is. It's like, you know, whenever I challenge any spiritual person anywhere, like the mainline leaders and stuff on YouTube, it's just like, it all seems like, no, God made this universe and this is it and this is for you and like da-da-da-da. And it's like, isn't it so beautiful? It's like, you know, there are some who are like, no, we originated from outside this universe. This universe has contortions within it that are based on drama, conflict, suffering, duality, etc. So false infinity is when the God virus overlays itself and says, you know, I'm infinite. It's like, I don't think the universe is infinite. I think it's it's false infinity. And every element of God that claims to be infinite is not. It sure is. Least of all love. It's not only does it not have infinite love, it has no love.
Yeah. When I was reading the Bible and I went through my Christian phase, the more I read, the more I kept thinking, this God of this Bible is this small. It's like my inner voice was saying, you're bigger than this God that's being talked about in this Bible.
Yeah.
And people don't see it. It's this small. You know, and it's just like,
and he's a schizophrenic
and a murderer.
Murder, yeah. You watch that YouTube video?
Sacrifice my child,
yeah,
your child, and then in another breath he says, "Don't kill people." I mean,
and then he gets people to do his dirty work.
Oh yeah,
and he blames you for it and says that it's your fault.
Yeah,
and it's not.
Yeah, thou shalt not kill unless you're me.
Yeah,
you know, it's like right before we got on, before going live, I was watching some clips like Pastor John Piper in Minneapolis, Minnesota, of Desiring God Church, deeply Calvinist. I went through my phase of that for a couple years, and I was like all immersed in that. It's like I came out of it, and it was like, right? But it's like one of his first. It's like, so the first answer comes out of his mouth. It's just like, so why did God slaughter women and children? And is it ever okay for God to do that? And the first answer that comes out of his mouth is, it is right. It's like God has the right to slaughter women and children. And it's right for him to do that anytime he pleases.
Yeah.
Because his
right. So basically, right. So God's saying, you made this evil, you made this sin, but if I participate in this sin, so God says, if I murder, if I rape, if I'm a pedophile, if I do this, it's okay. But if you do it, it's bad. The extreme irony is that there is no greater sinner than God. No human being has done as much evil as God has done. God, the greatest the poof, is that no one has greater true karmic horrors, however far away it is in the future, coming to them than God and goddess and these astral parasitic beings. That's that again. It brings up the topic of true karma and false karma. All these religious teachings, they get people on this false karma wavelength, which is based on a banking system of karma between you and them, where they distort it, and it's a karma transfer game. See, in the greater reality, they're generating this shitty, horrible karma because it's like they're murdering, they're raping, they're just doing all the horrible things that they do, whether they incarnate in bodies or hang out in the astral realm and mess with people while they're alive. They're doing all this evil. And then it's like people like you and I, it's just like they want to come along. It's like they want followers. They need them because it's like they need to get rid of this karma. They need to transfer this cyclical energy onto them. So God transfers his evil karma onto his followers. And so it's like God takes the good, the well-meaning, loving intention from people who are praying and worshiping to him right now, and then he dumps his evil black goo onto them in exchange. It's like, thanks, guys. Here's my garbage in return. It's like, imagine it's just like, it's like you just got fine gold in your hands, which is you. You hand it over, and then you just get this big pile of stinking garbage. You're like, oh man, I just made what a great deal.
Well, isn't that what happened? We had gold at one point, and all of a sudden they took the gold and gave us this crappy piece of paper, and now it's not even paper. Now it's numbers on the computer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll just transfer over all this number, and it's like,
people don't realize when on a Sunday morning, when people gather to worship and give their energy to this evil entity, which they think is a righteous one, they are transferring their own sovereign energy and entity energy of themselves and giving it away. And they even do songs about it. They raise their hands and they worship it. And
even the Santo Daime Church. So ayahuasca historically was used as the shamanic brew for people to kind of commune with the earth and stuff like that. And what the Santo Daime Church did is they paired Catholicism with these. So literally, they're singing Portuguese hymns about Mother Mary and then pairing it with just being natural and normal in the earth. So yeah, that's another classic example, and I witnessed that personally, where they're blending and swirling together. This crazy, I saw some really crazy stuff, physically and spiritually.
And so they take people like you and I and my fiance who come up with answers, and they're like, well, show us your sources, and where do you get your information? And I quickly say, well, where do you get your information? You got this book that was created to dumb you down, to make you believe that everything in this book is true, and you have to follow it. I mean,
but there's no greater truth, they say.
Yeah, and it's like, says who?
You guys ever notice on Sunday how the energy just feels kind of stale? You ever notice how Sunday, like, I don't know if you just like pay attention to like major like macro vibes. Yeah, it's just like, and it's very consistent when mass worship is going on. It's like the energy just goes, it just kind of like zeroes out. It's like, I don't think, it's like at the very least, you're definitely not feeling colorful, creative consciousness on a Sunday morning.
How can you when it's constant, you're constantly being told how evil and wicked and how you're worth nothing, that unless you give your life to this so-called Jesus, you're a piece of doo-doo, according to them.
We're infinitely more valuable than Jesus. We're infinitely more valuable than Allah. We're infinitely more valuable than Sophia the goddess. Because in spite of being cast as worms inside these prism bodies, in spite of that, it's like we've trudged through real life. It's like, or if you go to like, they talk about enlightenment, these monks and stuff who isolate themselves. It's like, how can you call enlightenment isolating yourself, shutting everything down, cutting off, your food and everything like that? I just do nothing, for decades and decades, and you just have the profound knowledge, as if this is what consciousness is about. This is what living and being vivacious and being truly fulfilled is about. I found it, right? It's all about emptying. Yeah, it's about becoming empty. Become empty, whether it's Taoism or Buddhism or Christianity. It's about emptying yourself out so that it goes poof.
So you take transfer all your stuff to them. It's
right. And they'll give
Like,
you some garbage in return. They're like, oh, we'll occupy your spirit. It's just like, phew. Yeah, I mean, it's like with mine, people are driven to madness. You know, the madness, the murder. It's like all this crazy stuff. It's like they think that people just take for granted. They think their own thoughts. It's like, no, you don't. They're like, oh, I know. It's like even you and I. It's like we have to be discerning to know. It's like for me, I know it's like there are so many energies in the ether, physically as well as astrally. I can't just assume every thought that pops up into my head.
No. They get in there. It's like they're like constantly wanting to bring your mood down.
Yes, they are.
And when you're feeling a certain way, it's not even coming from you.
Like, where the hell did this come from?
And then there are people, because I'm a big believer that there are people that bring really negative energy. Like, you know, I'm an empath and I'm always analyzing things, you know, and I'm like, every time this person either writes a comment on Facebook, something negative comes along.
And it could even be well intentioned.
Yeah, but it's like something about them.
Core intent. You feel it's like energetically. Yeah, you energetically. And this goes back to us talking about expanding your senses, expanding your intuition, expanding what you really feel. Because like you describe yourself, empath. It's like you can feel even energetically in our exchange right now. There's this energetic recognition of core intention, right? Of what's really there. Who's the person behind this? It's like there's substance, and that's what's creating this. Right, lifelike vibe. It's that substance of what's beyond these three physical bodies on camera right now. That substance, that zest, that right. Yeah. That's the real stuff, you know. Yeah, exactly. Like you said, those voices, like they're trying. It's like they're just. So what's interesting is it's where's the proof that they do that? It's like the proof is in you see God's evil hand. It is in big pharma. It is in mental health diagnosis. Think about in school. It's just like if somebody is meant to be a dancer or an entrepreneur and they're not very good in school or they can't focus or they just want to be somewhere else. It's like they haven't figured out who they are yet. School is just like, you're bad. You know, you have ADHD. Let's give you medicine because there's a certain class that you can't focus in. This idea that everybody's going to have an equal amount of focus and devotion and appreciation of every single class that school brings along is just silly bullshit. Like, it's complete nonsense.
That's how they bring you down. That's how they bring you down. That's how they control, whether it's through the medical system, through the financial system, to the religious system, everything's designed.
So many things are logic based though, so that you, like when you do music, say, you know, we're all musicians here, right? So music doesn't have like a coded thing that you're trying to break through. I mean, you're literally creating in your own like being.
In your essence.
You're creating and
like,
it's flowing.
Yeah. Like I sat down and tried to learn how to read notes. You know, try to learn how to play the piano I couldn't do it.
And there's a way you could do that.
I just learned how to play the guitar through my own self, through the chords. And when I write a song, it's like it's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's not some sort of it's not a formula that I follow. It's just like boom, and then I'm like, wow, I wrote this.
I mean, there's those that will play a regimented, you know, to the key signature and everything, and they'll do everything according to mathematically the correct, you know, half note weight and staccato, you know, all
that's
that
not
stuff.
creating.
But you can feel it.
Yeah, you have to feel it. It's like with me. I'm a canvas. 2 weeks ago, I was Maritza. I didn't like that. at all. It's like I went back to being Mark again. And people are like telling me, well, you're indecisive. You need mental help. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Help. You know what's interesting? One of the first questions, it's like if you answer the question, one of the questions that they will ask you when they're trying to determine whether you're mentally ill or not is like, do you believe that other people can put thoughts in your head? And so from the psychiatrist point of view, if you believe that a thought can pop into your head based on your environment, based on another person, based on any other thing outside of you, then you're mentally ill. So that
would be everyone.
That's our agenda right now.
Yeah, because that'd be everyone. The television, the radio, the internet, they're constantly influencing us.
I mean, people crying at theater.
Yeah, it's crazy. But, you know, I refuse to allow anybody to put me in the box. That's why, you know, you can never like know what I'm going to do. You can never peg me. I'm one of those people that I'm so unpredictable that I can't even predict myself.
You sound like me. That's what I do with my friend. Like I talk to my best friend in Egypt. Like it's just like I'm always bringing surprises to the table. You sound like me. bring those surprises to the table. You know, like. Well, I'll tell you what. Even with gender and stuff like that, it's like, you know, there are spirits that are more masculine in nature that will get incarnated into female bodies, and vice versa. And people kind of like they're not really aware or in tune with that. To me, it's just like, yeah, or even you go back and forth. It's like, even me, it's just like, yeah, I'm more masculine, but I also treasure and love kind of both. I love being able to be very masculine, just be myself that way. But also, it's like I just have a lot of these other gentler. I have a lot of
awesome.
yeah, feminine.
Beautiful mix.
Yeah, it's like those shades within. It's like and yeah, so it's like people are just very out of touch with what the hell is going on behind the scenes.
It's energy. We're all energy, and energy has a male and a female side to it, positive and negative. You know, and it's you can't put people shouldn't be allowed to be put in a box, but they're so afraid.
Freedom. You're a freedom lover.
Yeah.
Freedom is where it's
the system teaches people to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
always pick one or the other, or pick one and oppose the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Even more than pick one or the other, pick one and hate the other.
Yeah, Republican or Democrat, you know.
Yeah.
When was the last time an independent, you know, president candidate ever won? No, because people are, you know, pick one.
But then they don't realize that picking either is the same thing.
Both wings belong to the same bird. That's always been my saying.
Right. Exactly.
So where did you get your information from? I mean, what was your
kind of like some stepping stones along the way?
Yeah.
So did we talk about, did you guys end up reading that article by Cameron Day, Why I'm No Longer a Light Worker?
No.
Let me grab the link for you right now. I can paste it in chat. If you can put it in the YouTube chat for other people to check out too. That article is really excellent. It's very well thought out, and it illustrates the stuff I talk about in a more organized fashion for sure. Like I'm very creative and deep from the heart and stuff in the moment, but I can be less organized as well sometimes. So I'm gonna pull that up. Why? There it is. Why I'm pull it up. Cameron Day. He wrote that in 2013, and prior to writing this, he was into the whole paradigm, he's into stuff, and he just kind of like, it's curious. Yeah, I would say so. Here's this. I'll copy and paste this right now. This article is really good. Boom. Anyway,
is it the August 23rd, 2013 one? Lynna just pulled it up.
2013.
Okay,
yeah.
Put it in there.
Yeah. So that's a really great read. You guys should check that out. George Kavassilis has some really good stuff too. He talks about the matrix. He talks about the chakras as the matrix energy feeding centers. He talks about the raising vibrations as the thing. So it's been a combination. So some initial sparks were made by some of these other folks. And then the desire to take it further is kind of like, I just kind of saw it's like, because a lot of these guys, they wrote really great articles or made like a few YouTube appearances and stuff, but it's like a pattern that repeats over and over again is like, or even like discovering stuff about even some of Wes's stuff, like some of it is good. It's like they get things to a certain point and then either they just stop talking publicly about it or going any further with it. Or they just go off the rails and get repackaged into the false light, and that happens quite often as well, unfortunately. And I've seen it happen. I watched even one of the YouTube channels, Rich West YouTube channel. His stuff, Rich West talked about the greater reality before. He talked about getting out of body. And he talks about this universe being copy. And although a lot of what he talked about, he got from that Cameron Day article that I just shared with you. And then I just kind of moved on with him. A lot of people that are in my chat room moved on with him as well, because a lot of the stuff that he and Akvile were sharing, it just literally leaned away from this greater reality picture into just Akashic records and spiritual guides and chakras and Eckhart Tolle, the power of now. It's like they literally just went, and just like, and there's that atrophy. So basically, I saw that people like Cameron Day, people like George K were not being very present. They're not very presently active. They're not really doing a lot right now. People like Rich kind of got derailed back into a lot of new age ideas. And just kind of stopped, or they just put a period on it. They're like, I'm just sitting here like, this shit is amazing. Like, how can we just stop? So it's like innovation, creativity. So I challenge myself. It's like, even when I make reality rawcast videos, it's like, I'm literally just allowing this flow to happen where, you know, I'm tuning into here and tuning into just this intention of truth, this conversational flow where it's like, our intention is like, let's find out more, because this is fascinating and deep stuff. And it's like, when I see all that atrophy of this stuff and things getting repackaged into the parasite, I'm just like, holy shit, there's just like, I'm like, where is the voice for the truth? And to me, I was like, there's a huge void with it. You know, it's like, who's going to trigger? Who's going to kick off this thing, your second renaissance? It's like, hey, it's like human beings should not ever feel ashamed for speaking out against the church or speaking out against the religion. There's an abundance of evidence that it holds us back. And even David Icke, he did a video not that long ago that said religion holds us back. So it's like, I think there's going to be a growing momentum to this, and I would love to be a forerunner of that movement, because it's like, it is individuals that spark and create change in history. And at least I believe it's so important for people to just get out of this, to even begin to have a chance for real growth, for real self-realization. So yeah, I've gotten sparks from other people along the way. Another thing that has sparked it has been my personal experience that talk about walking between worlds, seeing these spiritual beings. I worked with archangels for like, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks. And I was listening to them and I was following them. And basically I was looking for more evidence and clues and past life exploration and in the physical. And basically what ended up happening is just like, I just noticed this pattern of them being omitting a lot of things. They would speak in very vague generalizations, like, oh, this is for your growth, da-da-da, this is dear one, da-da-da. The same types of things that you hear when people channel, whether they're channeling the Greys or they're channeling the Pleiadians, the Greys, the Pleiadians. It's like, so, I just noticed, I was like, they kind of lie. I was like, why would they leave this out? This was a vital thing. It's like, so for these spirit guides, it's like, why the hell don't they ever actually really chime up? It's like the way it's like somebody who loves you, who really cares about your well-being, be like, holy, yeah, that's about to happen to you, stop, or something like that. It's like, why don't they ever chime up? It's like about that stuff. Oh, it's for your learning. Da, da, da. It's just like, I was like, these spirits. So it's like, to me, I basically, in my physical interactions with them, I would see them as these white light beings at first. And then when I started questioning them, and just feeling deeper, because again, I'm all about going deeper into the truth. I would use my own intuition. I was like, okay, let me penetrate their energy field any further. Like you described, there's an energy that always comes along with the comment. If you look at paintings of angels, if you look at paintings of Jesus, if you look at those paintings, you can feel with your heart, you're like, what's going on here? Like the energy coming off the paintings is stale, it's flat. Like it's not the same love energy that you have in your heart. You have more love and passion and realness and truth inside you than Jesus and the angels do. So it's like I work with them. I realize.
You notice that every picture that they show about Jesus, he's on a cross, he's all bloody. You know, it's like what kind of.
One of the things that really speaks to me is when you said that, it makes me think these entities are artificial in nature, and they are very much part of a computerized, synthetic fake reality that they've developed over time. Yeah. And it's not the heart. It's not the meaningful piece of what a person is. You know,
they're empty and they want your fullness. You are full, they're empty, and they're the reason you don't feel full. Yeah, and it was the same thing. There was this massive thing, you know, I've shared, you know, because it was a very personal experience with my encounters with the Orion Queen. And there's actually been other people that have come out and talked about having similar personal experiences with the shape and appearance of it. But I remember it was maybe June-ish of last year, maybe a little earlier or later. And I would talk with this one of my best friends in Egypt. We'd talk about this because I'd be doing these past life regressions and stuff. And Orion came up, and I had incidentally been looking at some of Wes's work at the time. And it's just like, there was this voice that was telling me that, you know, it's just like, you know, I'm like this deep, loving, caring person serving, you know, this queen. And that was literally like the position that I literally felt like, it's like, you know, because our soul memories are erased. I could literally kind of feel that. I was like, yeah, it kind of feels like I've been doing that without even like realizing it. I don't know why. And like at some point, my friend said to me, it's like, well, you don't need to serve. And I was just stopped and I paused and I was like, well, yeah, that's true. Like, so I did an experiment. I was like, okay, this being seems to be presenting itself as calm and loving and stuff like that. And that's how I would see it, as like a spiralister. When I looked up a picture of Ishtar, that's when I was like, that's what I saw. But anyway, so I did an experiment. I was like, okay. And I said to her, I was like, I'm not going to serve. Like, I was like, I'm not part of this anymore. I'm not going to do this. And the energy went from that to shh. It's just like, I just felt this intense hate. And I could tell there was like this hive mind network. Here's what I think Orion really is. So it's like, it's a hive mind network. And it's very much related to insects. It was so weird. While I was doing this, I had this vision. I could like see, I was seeing in my head like these ants or like these tons of insects and stuff. I was like, why am I seeing this? And it was like connected to this female goddess and her queen and what was going on. I was like, why am I doing this? And the house that I was renting at the time, maybe an hour or so into it or later, I walked into the kitchen and there were these tons of ants just like marching in through the front door. I was like, and it was a really trippy experience. But I literally hear, see, and feel that. So it's like, I've been, again, strengthening my senses, playing intuitive games, the question game and stuff, where it's like, you get the energy moving like this. You can literally, I mean, you can practice strengthening your intuition while you're driving your damn car. It's just like, oh, what does this feel like? Who's this feel like? You know, you can just play the question game. But like when I walk around, I can feel, it's like the insects on this planet are a hive mind. And I believe it's like, just like parasite beings in the astral, insects tend to be parasitic in nature for the most part. Not all of them, but most and lots of them, it's like they're there to take from other organisms. But it's like, I can feel that. It's like, so when I experience after basically going through this resignation phase, it's like, again, shape-shifting being, it's like, there's a band on YouTube called the Orion Experience, and they wrote a song. I don't think they've never talked about, oh, Orion, da, da, da. There's a lot of songs that have been written about the Queen of Orion, and if you look them up on YouTube, they're extremely negative. They're extremely dark. It's like, the Orion Experience is the name of the band, and the song title is The Queen of White Lies. And there's another song called The Orion Queen, and you hear this really dark, ominous music. So it's like, to me, I see that as a form of soft disclosure. There's so much sketchiness behind this Namu Sumerian goddess who says, oh, no hierarchy, da, da, da. Just come into me. It's like, come into my, it's like, think about it like this, like somebody who's on his forum and follows that stuff, who ended up leaving the Reality Rockcast chat with a bit of an angry tone, message somebody else who I'm still in touch with, and talk about, it's like, as soon as you die, it's like to escape, you gotta go through the black portals, you gotta go to the KHA, you gotta go, it's like you go to the void. It's like, so you're being urged, like, with this sense of urgency, as soon as you die, to jump into basically a black hole. Like, and that is going to, this is going to be the path of freedom. It's like Wayne Bush, unfortunately, came to this. So this is why I made the Reality Rockcast, because I see these spiritual leaders that are coming to the same dualistic conclusions that are not about you empowering yourself and tearing the illusions down from that ever-expanding power within it. It's always telling you to just patiently wait for something to come, or just wait to die, and then when you die, you can just quickly jump into such and such portal. It's just like, doesn't matter whether it's a white light portal, or a pink one, or a blue one, or a black one.
Wes tells us to go a hole in the whatever he calls it. In the,
go through the little opening
in the portal or something like that. Don't go to the light, go through that. And it's like,
there's a rip in the ceiling, go through there or something.
And I think if you can't listen, that's one of the reasons I think we're here. It's like we're in some sort of like training to learn how to listen to the inner voice within.
Over all the other bullshit.
Yeah, so that you know exactly what you have to do. It's
intuitively.
It's like I'm constantly walking through life like, okay, I'm not going to do this yet. I'm trying to listen to my higher self in everything that I do, because if I don't, then I mess up.
Well, here's the thing. Even terms, it's the same thing. So higher self, it's like they use the term higher self because you think you're somewhere way out there, up there. And that's another thing. It's like, if you want to listen to your higher self, it's like, it's going, it's right there.
It's within you.
The problem with the Orion teaching, the problem with the Queen of Orion, the problem with Namu, Ishtar, the problem with this is that it's saying, it's like, and I typed this all out like very cohesively because I slowed myself down to take time to explain this, is that when your originality, your creativity, your inner voice is all, it's like, it all came from the Queen. It's like, if you deny her, you're cutting yourself off from yourself. And it's basically, she is you. And it's like, it's this backdoor thing where it's like, there's no hierarchy and your free will. This is the free will experiment and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's like the very notion that nothing of you is really you. It all really came from her. And this idea of like, well, you need to go back. It's like, again, it's doing the exact same thing. It's promising something else. And what do? They repackage and they make exaggerated promises and claims. This is how people get trapped in these matrices in the first place. There's this big sale. It's wonderful, beautiful, colorful. It's a place of wonder. This is our matrix. I don't know if you saw that any of the Star Trek stuff, like the Return of the Archons or Jane Grey versus Evil Alien, if you saw that clip. But she's literally dying, and there's this parasite alien that appears before her, and it appears as her father, but it's not it's acting funny. Did you guys see that?
No.
You got to see it. I'm going to pull that link up for you to see. Other people should see that too. But it's so similar, and he's trying to get her to come with him into this portal. And at first and she's just like, who are you? You're not my father. What's really going on? And he just ends up being like, he'd be like, and so finally he's just like, I'm here to help you. And he's like, and she's like, what's really there? He's like, that's the doorway to our matrix. And he says it just like that. He's like, it's a place of wonder and freedom and all this stuff. And he's just trying really hard to get him to persuade. So it's like, on the outside, the gods, the goddesses, the angels, they shapeshift themselves on the outside, and they present this pretty little package where it's just like, you're going to be free, you're going to be able to do this, that's the selling point of Orion. It's the selling point of the call. Things are so hard here. It's so hard to manifest here. But once you go there, you'll be able to just manifest and make everything you want.
It's like heaven.
Yeah.
It's like the person pushing heaven. It's like, you want to go, path is narrow. When you're up there, you'll be able to do everything you want to do, blah, blah, blah. And you'll be, it's like, come on, people.
Right. It's
the thing is,
it's all mystical, empowering promises from you just blindly going somewhere. It's like all of that stuff that you want, everything. It's like, this is my message to everybody. Everything that they're promising. Yeah. Everything that they're promising for you. And this is why I say, it is completely pointless to discover all this truth and then just atrophy and do this. It's like you don't come all that way to do that. You do this. It's like you've come so far. It's just like, now step into your power. Your power. It's like, why would you go so far in information and truth seeking and then put a period on it with, I'm going to go rest over here. I'm just going to go fling my soul over here. Mm-hmm. This person promises all this candy to the stranger in the truck. Want some candy? That's what it is.
No, I was just going to say that when you really look at it and you break it down for what it all is, you see patterns. You see patterns in the God matrix system, right? You see these things, just like the zeros and ones and stuff, or how you can like catch, patterns going on. This is what is going on with these God beings. Is that they're stupid. They're stupid. They're in a chain, and this is how they recycle their crap. Is they get people to follow inside that circle, and then that's how how they can promote themselves. But if people were actually able to think for themselves, they would break out.
Yeah, all their creativity goes into, they're not very creative at all, but any shred of it that they do have goes into deceit and repackaging. Exactly, you get it. So in order to discern, you have to be able to see the pattern behind what's being said. You can't just, it's like, oh, they're up here, it's like, it's just logical. It's like, again, you can look at a document that says, you know, we're in charge of you, and da-da-da-da. You can look at a 1, 2, 3,000 page book that has complex logical stuff. It's so, even if it's, you know, it's, the Bible is not logically consistent at all. But let's say it is a long text. Let's say there is some other text that is long and consistent. It's like, well, this is really logical. It's just like, one thing you learn in college, if you ever take like a basic like logic course, is that something can be really logically consistent, logically beautiful even, and completely false. You can have 1,000 pages, you can have 10,000 pages, you can have endless 100,000 pages. And then you can feel right here, your intuition, your heart will tell you when something is bullshit in a few seconds, right? So it's like, again, it's about, here's another analogy for it. So in music, the most expensive amps that, you know, people like John Mayer use, it's like the amps that produce this pure quality of sound. It's not, they don't add all this shit to it. It's like the highest valued amps for like an electric guitar is the stuff where the signal path is so clear between the guitar and the amp that the sound that comes out is so pure. And to do that, it's all about less is more and eliminating all this extra crap. The low budget, the cheapest, crappiest ones, they have all this, right? They have all this extra stuff in between you and the sound that you want to put out, right? So it's just like the illustration of this concept of convoluting the truth. You know, it's just like, you know, and that's really, there's always, and this is what these entities do as well. They need, they use, when you're talking about patterns, they use patterns of storyscape, metaphor, and because, and they talk to the unconscious mind because our subconscious thinks in pictures and metaphors. And so the reason why the West Bannery Papers are so long, why the Bible is so long, why all these repackagings have stories and characters and the goddess fought the god, and then this happened, and then the rise of this, is because the unconscious mind, the human mind, loves characters. That's why political presidents that are elected, they're characters, right? It's characters and caricatures, right? Because the mind, the unconscious mind, it gravitates toward characters, metaphor, and story. That is what religion capitalizes on. And the false alternatives do the exact same thing while pretending not to. We've got more storyscape for you. The truth is this super obvious shit. It's so obvious. People are like, that can't be it. We got all this complex storyscape. And they're going on this twisted journey that just destroys their sovereignty and erases their memories and fills them with suffering and grief and limits their growth. Meanwhile, the truth is like, you. One word, you. And getting rid of all that other crap. It's like truth. It's simple and direct. I mean, even the health-based form of martial art that I study is completely non-commercial. There's only one dojo in all of the Western Hemisphere that teaches it, and the guy who brought it here from the East is very old. It's completely different than everything else. It literally mimics what the animals do in nature. It's all about getting you out of things, not into them. It's one of the only things where you strike with parts of your body, only the ones that don't injure you. This is like a flying off tangent, but the whole premise of it, so I don't go too much into the tangent, is it's simple and direct. Content means simple and direct. Like, stop adding so much complexity to it. Fighting and entanglement is complexity. It's like, you either know you're going to win some kind of encounter or you're not there. There is no fight, right? And that's the central teaching of it. And that creates a simplicity. Oh, either I'm in some kind of physical or non-physical encounter where it's like there's a justified reason for me to be in it, and I know I'm going to win, so I'm going to just do it and walk through it like it's a breeze, or I'm not going to be there, right? And there's a simplicity to that. And people, like the human mind, once again, it needs this storyscape. You know, that's what fighting and wars and conflict and destiny and all this stuff. It's like it's pulling you in with scripts and stories, false light scripts, God scripts, goddess scripts, angel scripts, spiritual guide scripts, open your third eye scripts.
Our DNA has been tampered to actually
Prefer
that, to see that, to play that out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's what's been
to play out the drama.
Yeah, exactly. Until we learn to reprogram ourselves,
Yeah,
to
you have
take
to.
back our power, our sovereignty, we're going to continue to make the same mistakes over and over again.
It's almost like we're given our part without us even being
Yes,
asked.
you're given a role.
Yeah,
You're given a role in God's storybook, in
yeah,
God's drama book. God creates the problems, then swoops in with his other face as the person who cleans up the problems. That's what the archons do. They create a bunch of chaos and destruction. And when through the hive mind, when they're putting those negative thoughts in your head, they create depression, they create chaos, they create conflict, they create wars, they create all these problems, and then say it's like we're so good. It's like because they're very organized and logical and methodic. And so when they disguise themselves as false light, people very much gravitate toward that organization and that cleanliness, because it's like they're very dirty and disgusting and chaotic, but they're very good at presenting order, law and order, or rather mixing truth with lies to appear to be orderly. But on the core of who they are, they're quite hideous. They're quite hideous and quite evil. So yeah, another reason why I care so much about it's like, and this isn't even new. Think about it, like John Lennon, George Harrison, those guys. It's like, imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. It's like the point is like it's like that motherfucker was killed because it's like he was more pop. It's like they were more popular than Jesus Christ, and here they're sending a message. It's like, guess what, guys? You don't need a religion. It's just like bang bang. It's like. So it's like this message, this truth, this deeper truth. It didn't, obviously it didn't start with me, but it's like it wants to come out. This truth that we do not need parasites to lead us. That we do not need God. We do not need false outer heaven. We do not need to be soul recycled. We do not need God or goddesses to tell us how we should learn and grow. It's like we need to determine that for ourselves, and we need to work together with other sovereign beings like us. Who are as free. It's like when you learn from people who are free of the parasites, then you're getting real learning. This is like some of the best knowledge that I've gained is from other greater reality beings. How do you know they're greater realities? It's like, well, again, I feel them, less like you can feel me right now. I can feel you, right?
Yeah.
There's this bigger macro energy because our thoughts aren't being like, well, what do you think? Do you think that when Jesus walked in 1450, it's like it's not being shrunken down into that shit, right?
Yeah.
There's this freedom of truth. That's why the vibe right now is like it's big, it's open.
One of the things that I realized that Christianity wasn't in, and they were full of, is like you can't have a conversation with a Christian without them throwing out some freaking Bible verse. It's like, can you speak to me and stop throwing Bible verses at me? I mean, they don't have that capacity, that capability.
Program.
It's a program.
Yeah, right. They're like it's like NPCs in a video game.
It's like a robot. Corinthians 1 says blah 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 and Father and blah blah. And it's like, come on now. People.
Right. There's right, and it's debatable. People have talked about this, like, okay, how many people here are like NPCs in a video game? Where it's like. Whether you believe they're NPCs or not, you can sure get an NPC experience from just talking to a few people. It's like you have the character and you go press X and it always says the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
It's like, holy shit, that's like real life.
I know.
And that's the craziness, is because the LGBT has been under attack by the Christian, community and stuff, and they always like make them feel like, oh, you're broken, oh, you're wrestling with a demonic entity, oh, you haven't given God victory over what you're dealing with, you haven't given God, and it's like, you don't realize that the biggest entities of satanic evil exist in religion, in a legion of all these spiritual wickedness in high places that are playing you and making you feel like you're like guilty and stuff when you're not.
Yeah.
They create
what they need to say is, you got out of the cage, get back in here.
That's how it was when I got out. Everybody was like,
God.
"Oh, it's still." I mean, the thumbs down we're seeing on the show today is a bunch of Christians that continue, because I was there, Joan of Arc. It's like, "Oh yes, sister," and all this, that, and the other. All of a sudden, I did a 360 or a 180. They're like, "What happened?" I thought
what happened? Well, yeah. I mean, I get on John Piper's videos and I'm just like, I can't believe that I was handing out your pamphlets. And when I was 15, 16 years old, I was like, I can't believe how much like I listened to you. You know, somebody who says God can kill as many women and children as he wants, and that's perfectly fine. You know, it's just like, you know, their auto reactions. It's like, and again, you know, it's just like, and that's why it's just like, when it comes to triggering change, it's like you have to look behind the scenes, just like you look, you notice patterns that the parasites do. It's like people's actions, they spring forth from the collective unconscious, and the collective unconscious is altered when an impression is made on it. Regardless of how many people are pressing those thumbs down button, it's just like they're on the losing side of the equation because they're reacting to you. It's like their collective unconscious is being hit by something that it really can't handle, and then it's reacting, right? And then the human, the collective unconscious, the larger collective unconscious is now being impressed with us. So it really doesn't, and it's like, this is actually something, and you know, it's like, I don't want to like turn this into a political thing, but it's like when you look behind the scenes, like with Trump, it's like what he did that has taken was like that the Democratic Party was like really slow, it's still very slow to realize, is that, you know, he took this concept that there's no such thing as bad press. It's like, it's all about who's doing the acting and the reacting, and he's always making the other side react to him. It's like, and this is why I say it's like it's like with the second Renaissance, with these ideas, it's like being proactive. It's just like, you know, it's like there's this double standard in society where it's okay for God and manifest destiny, mass genocide. We slaughtered, we stole your country, we did all this, you know, in America and Australia and India and Africa. It's like, in the name of God, we slaughter. It's okay, as it's this double standard in society. Like, it's like it's okay for preachers to preach every Sunday. It's okay for producers to like, but it's just like it's somehow unkosher, even though there are probably millions, really billions of people that know that religion's a problem, know that it's bad, know that that preaching that's going on is wrong. It's this double standard where it's kind of like atheists or whoever, whatever. If you're not with God, then it's kosher to just like, you should just shut up. You should just be quiet, right? And to me, like, I want to invigorate people who know this internally here, that this is true, to speak out. It's just like this whole double standard of like, it's not cool to speak out against religion. It's not cool to do that. That just needs to go away. Because just like, it's horrible atrocities, pedophilia in the Catholic Church. It's like, it's just like, and it's somehow, it's not kosher, not okay. You're crossing the line for speaking out against the deepest evil that we really in the known universe. It's unkosher and not cool. Oh man, that's popular. Even people who agree with me, it's just like, they're just like, whoa, he's like really like talking about it. I'm like, it's like humanity needs to be fearless in slaying God.
Well, I think it's happening is I think like the LGBT is turning around and fighting against Christianity. I think people are saying it's not cool anymore. And people are having a little bit more of a valor than they did before. Because before it was like, oh, don't speak bad of God. Oh my God, that's people are
exactly.
People need to really look at what took place. Like we talk about, like, if you grew up in Christianity, Martin Luther and nailing the thesis on the church door and stuff, and all this that happened in the Reformation. What does that really mean? Reformation. I mean, you're reforming something to make it into the next level of control that you want to place a larger group of people into.
Right.
And like, you know, I mean, it's
Catholic.
Right.
They use everything from the environment to everything, anything to make people, to make them slaves.
God is the source of genocide. God is the source of division. God is a mass source of hatred. And, you know, it's like we're speaking out against this thing, and them on that side of the fence are looking like, you're being hateful, you're creating all this division. It's like, no, we're just pointing out facts. Like, these are historical facts. It is a historical fact that there has been more murder done in the name of gods and goddesses than any other reason in all of human history. It's just a fact. It's history. And, you know, it's like you can open the Bible up and just dozens and dozens and dozens of verses of God The God you speak of is the God of the world, not the real God. You know, and that comes up too. It's just like, no, you're talking about this. Like people, it's like they go from here to here, and they're like, no, there's a real God. It's like no, any God. It doesn't matter if it's using the title God, Creator. It doesn't matter. It's just like it has the same intention. People are like, oh no, you're talking about this. It's just like that's because they're thinking here, and it's like that's what the new age is. The new cage. Let's go from 3D to 4D to 5D. Meanwhile, you and your sovereignty are like this, but you're trying to climb up their fake spiritual ladder: 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D.
I mean, even 2 Corinthians 4:4 says the God of this world, the cosmos creator, the one who created this whole virtual reality mess that we live in, is the God, the real God.
The real God.
That's the God.
You're talking about the God of this world. We're talking about the God of the Bible. He says it right there. Boom. Kill that woman. Kill the Canaanites. Kill them. It's like, no, the God that you reference, it's like people, it's like they find the most ridiculous ways to turn around. It's like, look, here's your book. Here's your God that is murdering people. And they'll be like, well, you're talking about something.
You're talking about Satan, the God of this world. That's what
John Piper say, well, that God has any power that he wants to have. He can do whatever he wants to do because he's God.
Yeah.
You know.
And then people are so brainwashed. They're so brainwashed, and they make such slaves because they're wonderful slaves. And then they point fingers. Have you ever watched that movie Invasion of the Body Snatcher? Whenever they saw somebody that wasn't part of them, they go, they like, I don't know if you ever watched that movie. It's really freaky. But it's like,
sounds like it.
That's what they do. They see somebody who's escaped, and they're like, no, they
go crazy. They're insane. They're driven because this is what the God virus does. It drives humans to madness. There are probably people who have watched this right now and be like, I really want to kill that guy right now.
Yeah.
I really want to kill you.
Imagine what they want to do to me, because I was one of them and I was like, leading the flag, and all of a sudden when I went, I ain't doing this anymore.
They worship a God whose claim to fame is to make the wide path for destruction, not narrow, right? I mean, it's narrow to escape, but knowing that billions of people, he is going to throw them into a hellish existence for eternity. This is the kind of God that they serve.
It's literally the opposite of what the Bible says. So God says the good path is narrow. My path, the path to righteousness is narrow, and the path of destruction is wide. It's literally the exact opposite. The path to Jesus is wide, and the other path, it's like the path to God. The path to God is the wide path. That's the wide path.
Yeah.
Like the real path out of that's the narrow path. So it's like the path away from God is the narrow path. The path toward God is the wide, popular. Everybody's doing it. It's like people, because they exist, they don't think for themselves. They clump together in masses. It's like so many people will do something or believe something based on how many other people are doing it. It's the snowball effect. It's like there are so many people that lie the fucking hell out of to themselves and say, I did this because I'm so sincere and I care about truth and what's real so much. And I love Jesus so much. And it's just like, really? If there was nobody else doing this, you think you would have been the first one to say, how many people, it's just like this is human psychology. It's just like, there are so many people that do become part of what's really cult, because that's what religion is. It's a series of cults that produces mass genocide. They do it because of how many other people are doing it. And then they lie to themselves and everybody else and make up a bunch of reasons about why they really did it. But the real reason why they did it, the spark that got them into it, was how many other people were doing it.
That's exactly. And it's like I became a parrot repeating everything that I heard other people say or what the Bible, and it was just like.
But the irony was that he pulled me out of that, and I was like, what are you doing? Why are you going to that nonsense belief system that I grew up in? Why are you giving it a second thought? I mean, it's like,
it's based on trauma. We got a divorce, and that trauma just led me to go on that path. And now, if you look at every single Christian, they hit rock bottom, and then they found Jesus, and they're born again.
We need to do the opposite. So Jesus says you need to be reborn. You need to be like children. It's like, no. The reason why Jesus says you need to be like children is because he wants to stunt your growth.
Exactly.
And an ex-pastor put it really well. He's like, the church you don't need to be reborn. You don't need to be children. You need to grow up and take responsibility.
Exactly.
And that's
children. It's like children. So one of the things I say, I'm like children, and people say children are our future. Children are our future. I'm like, adults are our future. Children are not our future when they stay children in adult bodies until they're 90.
Exactly.
When you stay a child, when you be like a newborn babe, your adult body, it's just like you create. It's like you don't do the future. It's like the future never comes. Really, it's the same thing.
They don't want it to. They want to keep you in that.
Yeah, I mean,
no
matter how old they are, they're like, oh, I just wish I was a kid again. There's like, and they have this endless child. It's like, it's like there's a difference between innocent, pure, spontaneous, creative, beautiful side of the child expression, which is good, and the childishness of like, I don't want to deal with anything outside of my super narrow body. Like, they want to be kids again. It's like they literally are like rooting. They're rooting for ignorance. They're rooting for slavery. They're rooting for this not knowing. They're rooting. Please erase my memories and recycle me. Like,
right.
Take all my responsibilities. Save me.
Give your burdens on to God. It's just like,
It's like you're already eternal consciousness. You don't need to get it given to you. You
only emanate it if you choose that, and you actually grow it outside of this trap. You have to grow it to be beyond. You have to make yourself larger than life. These are the people who change history. All the people who press the thumbs down button, it's just like people are like, in the hive mind, it's like they're not changing history. They're not going to have an impact on the future of this planet that's going to create major positive change. They can do good things. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there are a lot of people that are sucked into religion that really, they're good people. Like, I mean, there are good Christians, there are good Muslims, there are good people. But it's not like they're all just bad. It's not a blanket statement. Everybody who's wrapped up in religion right now is bad. But the force, the entities behind them, they're the real deep evil. And like, the more people get into murder is okay, pedophilia in the church, whatever, the more people, that's an effect of them losing more and more of who they are, and the God consciousness filling themselves. So the more the Holy Spirit fills you, the more it's okay for God to do evil.
Yeah.
Because
they don't realize that Holy Spirit is actually demonic forces.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. False light.
Yep.
False light. False light constructs, baby. That's what it's all about. So we have to, it's like the second Renaissance. So there's the fake scripted spiritual awakening of raising your vibrations and going 4D, 5D, 6D, 7D, 8D. It's like, woohoo! And all these channeled aliens, it's like, which are really, they're the same beings that made religions. Like they do the new age to for the people who are like, I'm not into religion, but this stuff's okay. I like aliens. It's like it's their that's the fake awakening. What we're talking about here is the real awakening. So you have the spell, then you have the fake awakening that the aliens scripted, and then you have the real awakening, which is when you wake up from bullshit. First fake awakening that you thought was the real awakening. You're like, oh, I did all this. You start getting into spirituality and chakras and yoga and all this stuff, and you think you've hit you've only gone through you've gone into the bigger cage. And then when you hit this stuff, greater reality beyond the universe and your consciousness and your soul sovereignty, it does this, right? It hits the macro, right? That hatred of just like, hate you because you're so different. Jesus is going to send you to hell. It's like, that's here. And this is, and where we are right now is here. It's big. It's bigger than God. God is this. We are this. We are bigger than God. We are better. We are more moral. We are more upright. We are more caring. We are more compassionate. We are more real. We are more honest than God. God is a psychopath. He's neurotic. He's crazy. He's a liar. Right? Yeah. So like the alien, it's like, so the true awakening, the second Renaissance, the true awakening is that we are in charge of our destiny. We as souls, it is the coming together. So it's like, yes, there is cooperation. Yes, there's working together, but it's not this synthesized, we're oneness, right? So the three of us right now, we're having conversation stuff, and there's like a vibe, there's a shared vibration and stuff going on, but it's not, it's entirely rooted in just how individual each one of us is.
Exactly.
Right? Whereas the false oneness, false infinity, is rooted on you surrendering individuality.
So they could zap it out of you.
You know, we were watching that movie, the newest Spider-Man, Far From Home. And there's a scene in the movie where the guy that is, I guess is the brother of Iron Man, right? They're on a plane, and he's giving Peter Parker the ability to decide what his suit is going to be, So it's not like, he's being told this is what Iron Man intended for you. It was like, no, you go in there. You're a creator God. You go do what you know you can do.
What you need.
He's like, make it for yourself. And he's like, no, last time I did that didn't work. I want to put that in there. And he's creating, right? He's creating this beautiful creation of his own that he's using for himself, and these are things that, we're given the ability to realize that we have that creative capacity within us, that we don't have to give our sovereignty away to some magical God who's gonna like send you to heaven or back here to eternal earth, which is what they preach, to live forever in some kind of stupor. So we have that ability.
Yeah, God destroys creativity. God is the one saying, don't make your own suit.
Right.
Saying, don't discover your own powers. Don't carve out. Don't make your own realms. Don't make your own dreams. Don't make your dreams come true unless through me, the middleman. I will decide whether your dream. I will decide what your dreams are, what you're good at, what you're not good at. I will decide for you. I will help you realize who you are. So it's the false self. So it's like the God virus creates in your mind a false reflection of who you are, a synthetic reflection. And you have to pierce underneath that to get to who you really are. But yeah, it's like religion, that virus, that it's all about destroying creativity. That inhibition that you feel, or that feeling like a song that you want to write, or the creativity, that whatever your creative impulse is, that feeling of just inhibition, or it's not worth anything. It's like that voice comes from God. It's God. And God tells you your worth. It's like, so God beat you into the ground. Then he comes with the other voice and says, come, my child, I will help you.
And every time you try to do your own thing, like if you want to love someone of the same sex, they tell you you're wrong. If you want to use your body as your canvas to be the expression that you want to be, they tell you you're wrong. And it's like I say to, I'm going to be who I want to be, not because there's anything wrong with me. I also hate the fact they attach some sort of condition. Oh, you've got gender dysphoria. Well, what about if I want to express my spirit the way that I feel fit? Why do I have to have some sort of disease? Yeah.
Yeah, same thing with the slaughter of the Native Americans. The slaughter of the Native Americans is it's like this land's yours. God said it's his. Manifest destiny. Da, da, da. It's just like, so God. It's like man was made in the image of God. So when murder is done in the name of God, they are showing who God really is. They're reflecting God's image, because the image of God, the image of the God virus, is to beat down and destroy. Because what were the natives doing? They didn't care about God. They were just like, they had their own things, but even their own gods and stuff, they were based on the earth and natural, organic, free flowing, symbiotic expressions. It's like they were far away from this. The God virus is like, it's like, so their modality, it works like this. They just beat the shit out of you, murder you. It's like even the hatred through dislikes, and the Christians just like denouncing and hating you and judging you. It's like hate you, beat you down, and then they say, but if you repent, it's like if you come here, and right. So it's all about beating down and destroying who you actually are, and then replacing it with viral garbage. So it's like, it's the same pattern. You see it throughout history. It's everywhere. It's like, yeah, every time people who were organic people of the earth that were not into the God virus were slaughtered, it was the same pattern. It was just like, and then they said, well, we'll give you free college, and it's like one nation under God. It's like this is God's country. God endows, even the Constitution. God endows. It's like our freedom. It's like, I love the liberties that we have in America, but it's like they didn't come from God. It's like, this is not God's country. We should never ever
That's an illusion, Iorek. That's the freedom that they say we have. Yeah, you're free to pay your taxes and told what to do. I mean, you're free to do what they want you to do. If you go against what they want, there's no freedom. You're going to find yourself behind bars.
But isn't
You know?
I'll tell you what. Compared to other countries,
Yeah,
it's not
but
extreme here. But yes, no, you're right. I mean, it's like in America, it's like it's like this is a revolutionary time in history where we can even like do a show like this without like people with fucking pitchforks coming after to burn us at the stake. Because these same people, it's like now it comes in as thumbs down. You go back a century or two, they're coming with pitchforks, shotguns, and machetes to come burn you at the stake. They can't do that in there because they're like, oh, I'll go to prison if I do that because finding criminals is really easy in the modern day. It's like
all these countries, Latin countries, Venezuela, Argentina, they were like the United States at one point, and all of a sudden they're not like that anymore because the banking system took
you
over.
come from Cuba,
and I come from Cuba. I'm Cuban. I was born in Cuba. And my country was
World Bank, IMF.
Yeah, that was like the best hangout ever until, the people didn't want Batista anymore because they thought he was corrupt. And Castro came in and threw a curveball and lied to the people. And all of a sudden, now we're in a communist regime. Well, all that glitter isn't gold. The United States of America may seem free now. But if we look at the pattern of other countries.
It's the pattern of communism.
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Communism, global, new world order.
Well, isn't that what the singularity is all about?
Singularity, it's like if you look at Sweden, that is a perfect prime example of like what they actually want to do, where people are actually getting microchipped in their hands to pay for their products, and they're like having parties and stuff about that. Sweden is an example of what the extreme left wants, like the corporate. The people are like, here's our guy. It's like they put their puppet cannon. Go, Joe. Come on, Warren. Go, Joe and Warren. They're going to answer all your problems. They care about you. It's like, no, they don't. It's like, but yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. And their thing is, it's very much about destroying your individual identity.
Right.
Like, what is it that is going on here with social media, this revolution and everything? And this gathering and this basically harvesting of our own like mind and information that we would give our memories, our experiences, our histories, our photos, everything that we would have is being funneled, like say into like a Facebook or something, right? Or Instagram and stuff. Right. So they can mine all this information so that they can make a hive mind out of all of us. And in a way, we're already hive minding ourselves.
Yeah.
Google's telling us what to say in our Gmail. I mean,
yeah, unless you do like what we're doing right now, where you flip that upside down.
Right. But even so, like they don't like this kind of stuff. Like we won't get monetized for this just because they have rhythms and words that they pick out, and then they go and boom, because we don't have freedom of speech. That's BS. There is no freedom of speech.
Highly locked.
Yeah, the social media giants, they've been more choosy about who should be speaking and who should not as of recent. And it's very much a pattern. It's very much a pattern. And so I use the social media. I use Facebook. I use all this stuff to speak the truth. It's like I used to say, hey, we're not all ones. Like there is a difference. Use your discernment. And so it's just like this thing, like I said, the internet's the worst thing that ever happened to them, but you have to be able to see it from that perspective. You have to see that. That's why I have this, it's like, it's not blind hope. It's like, it's optimism that's just built on like, wow, any other time in human history, I just get tied and burned to a stake. It's like, now it's like they're trying to digitize everything, but it's just like, it's the same reason. It's like, it's a double-edged sword. And right now it's like the same thing that they're cutting us with is cutting them too. And, I'm happy to cut them. It's like, it's the God slaying sword. It's like, it's like the death of God, not the fake death of Jesus. I mean, like the death of God, the death of religion, is it's the freedom of the human spirit. It's freedom of consciousness. Because God is a parasite living vicariously off of us, and there are people that are fighting that are just like looking at us like, I want to kill you right now, because they're thinking to themselves, it's like they want to defend the parasite. It's like, it's just like Morpheus saying to Neo, it's like, there are some people that are so involved and ingrained in the matrix, they're not ready to be unplugged, right? It's the same thing. But nonetheless, Neo's purpose, everything that minority, this is what I said. It's not about the majority. It's not about the majority. That's a mind trick. You know, so never, ever, ever rely on the majority or likes, dislikes. I never rely on everybody's reaction or
I've never cared, even as a kid.
Right, like the mindlessness of the hive mind. It's like never, ever let that. It's like you get rid of, you go past that insecurity.
Yeah. You beat your own drums.
You become your creator self. Then you're now driving with like your message. You are now having a bigger energy. You are now shaping things into something that's much more beautiful than the horror that comes from the old.
Yep. Totally.
But isn't it like, you know, we were talking just the other day about how when we step out of our trailer here in Portland, it's like we look at the world around us, we see patterns going on all the time. We see, you know, people going about, and, you know, you go into any like busy city and stuff, you see the people just going from one place to another, mindlessly working, and little soldiers and robots,
like ants,
basically, and doing the things that, you know, they're programmed to do. And when you're able to step out from that and you look around, you're like, wow, are we really the ones that are the real ones here? And everyone else is
we're the crazy ones.
We're the crazy ones, you know. Like, everything else is black and white, and then it's like, I don't know.
You feel all these colors inside you, and those rare individuals that you meet, and like all this black and white static is trying to tell you that all that richness and vibration and color and contrast and variety and creativity and expressiveness within you, you know, that flat line is trying to tell you that it's real and you're not. It's the opposite. God says I'm really nice. It's the opposite. God's fake, right? That's the illusion. It's like the real. We got the realness. We got the goods. We got the goods. God is actually jealous of us. It's like the fake gods and goddesses. It's like they'll never admit it, but it's like they're jealous as hell because they're empty. They constantly need us to fill them, because it's like about their existence. Like they're like this hollow, empty walnut shell that's like super small, and it's like, I mean, they're lifeless. I mean, like I said, I can feel these entities. I can feel them. It's like, it's literally like the hive mind connects up to this God generator. And even just shows like this, or me making videos, even just putting that collective unconscious dent on that, it weakens the horrible evil that comes out of it. So again, like I encourage everybody, it's like anybody who's listening to this who's not brainwashed, it's like, don't be afraid to speak out against religion. Don't be afraid to identify. It's like, no, Jesus and Yahweh and God and all this, like this stuff is really evil. It's really, really, really bad. Don't be afraid to just say that. You know, I'm not, it's like, we're not here propagating violence. I'm not fucking propagating. It was like, let's be violent against them. It's like, no, that's their job. It's like,
that's what they've done since the beginning of time.
I like what you had to say, though. Just, you know, a month ago, I heard you talking in really positive terms towards, you know, people that would be Christians and stuff like that. And knowing that there are very good people, you know, that are sincerely, I mean, they're going to say I'm wrong, but they're going to say that we're wrong for saying this, but they're sincerely wrong, you know, about what their belief is, you know, because what they're entrusting themselves to is nothing of themselves, but
and it's not their fault.
And
it's fault, it belongs to that God they worship.
Right. It's not us versus them. It's really all of humanity
versus this God that's exactly.
That's where the focus is. It's really, you know,
as long as they divide, then they'll continue to conquer, and that's why they have us divided in all these different religions and all these different beliefs, and all, so to keep us like chasing our own tail instead of realizing we don't need to fight one another. We need to fight the boss.
Yeah, we need to beat the boss.
Yeah,
off the head of the dragon.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
And he's not. Here's the thing. He's not infinite. He's not any of these big puffed up things he says. It's like literally his power comes from people.
He's got nothing.
That's how pathetic God is. It's like he lives vicariously. It's just like, so it's like, I know. It's like, I know. It's like, even when we drop dead and stuff like that, it's like, I'll be doing the same thing that I'm doing while I'm alive. I'll be telling people, like, what the heck's going on here? I'll be exploring consciousness and be like, whoa, what's going on? Make sure you don't get solar cycle, stuff like that. But it's like speaking the word, it's like the word is the sword. The word is the God slaying sword. It's not violence. The word of the truth, the same, just like God made his virus matrix with the word and spoke it into existence. It is just like the word creates the evil synthetic God consciousness. It is the word that pierces and defeats the synthetic God consciousness.
Exactly. Well, excellent.
Good stuff.
Yep. We really enjoyed the conversation, and thank you so much for honoring us with your presence.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, and we'll do it again for sure. 'Cause
Any-
we'll do it again.
stuff going on.
We'll do it again.
words or-
We're journeying and we're exploring and we're creative and we're finding more shit out gradually over time. So I'm sure at some point there's going to be that's why you got to keep going. That's why you got to drive. That's why you got to take control. You got to take the wheel. You got to take your power, your sovereignty, and go forward and just ask yourself that question every day. Who am I really? Who am I really?
Yep.
And just explore, be creative, find out who you are, do things, and just sharp. I think it's an intuition game as well. It's like if you keep strengthening your intuition a little teeny bit every day, it's like our true self. It can tell us deeper and deeper truth about who we really are, where we really are, and what the path forward is. And that's beautiful.
Open to change. People have such a hard time with change.
Oh yeah.
And I'm always seeking change. I mean, it's like it's part of
change, Gemini. The wind moves, it changes. It's like move, flow. It's the rhythm. It's you flow with it, and not like schizophrenia, not like just wild change that just feels disconnected from everything. It's like change that emanates from this.
Right. But even that word, even like when they try to tell people to have a mental illness or they give somebody a label, even schizophrenics, they have something going on. They're like, oh, they're hearing voices or oh, they're this. And it's like, what if they're right?
Right.
What if they're right?
Hearing something?
Yeah. What if?
Oh, yeah. I talked about that too. A lot of people who are diagnosed with mental illness, they're actually just hearing the spirit realm.
Yeah, exactly.
They're seeing entities. They're not hallucinating. Like they're seeing entities.
No, but we want to put everybody in a mental box.
In a box. It's about doing this, right? Yeah. So pharma, bye.
Yeah.
Religion, bye. Humanity, free conscious, free souls.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's well, brother, thank you so much for
thank you
being part of the show, and good
thank
luck
you.
with everything.
Yeah. If anybody wants to check out my videos, you can just type in Reality Rawcast into the YouTube search engine, and you'll find me.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Awesome.
All right. Take care, and thank you everyone.
Thank you
Everyone for tuning in. Remember, we love you, but remember to always love yourselves too. Goodbye.